More medications, less health. Something's broken. Traditional medicine manages symptoms, but true healing addresses root cause. I'm Josh Rimini, pharmacist turned healer. At Beyond the Pills, we merge ancient wisdom with modern day science to inspire you through stories of transformation, practical trainings, and holistic healing. Join me and other practitioners as we guide you towards vibrant health, body, mind, and spirit, and move beyond symptom management into true healing. Hello. Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Pills. I am Josh Rimini, pharmacist turned healer. And today we have a special guest, Dr. Robert Kornfeld, who is the founder of the Institute for Functional Podiatric Medicine, a teaching institute where podiatrists who want to learn functional and regenerative medicine. We're going to have so much to talk about because that's what I do for pharmacists. He has been in private practice since 1982 and runs the Chronic Foot Pain Center in New York City. Welcome, Dr. Kornfeld. How are you doing?
Very good, Josh, and thanks for having me on the show.
Man, just your short bio just speaks to me because you're a traditional physician, podiatrist in your training, and you moved to functional medicine, and now you teach in others in your, let's call it your bubble, your zone of genius, your training, the other side of things, going through and merging what you've learned into this stuff. So let's dig right in. Tell people who you are. I've never heard of Functional Podiatric Medicine and the Institute for this, right? And Correct. So tell people about who you are and what you're doing right now.
Okay, so what I'm doing right now, of course, as a person who's had 37 years of experience in functional medicine and regenerative medicine, I'm looking to help a lot of the doctors who are kind of struggling with burnout and overwhelm and feeling unappreciated and beaten up by insurance and beaten up by their private equity employers, to know that there's another way not only to practice medicine, but to create a model where the delivery system is direct between doctor and patient. So what I've created is an online course. It's 8 modules. It's 29 videos. And it speaks to everything they need to know about functional medicine, regenerative medicine, all the lab work we do to analyze our patients when we're trying to figure out why they're in chronic pain. And then there's a whole section on how to create a practice that doesn't rely on insurance and employment. And this is all coming from years and years and years of my own experience practicing this way.
Well, I there's so many synergies to talk about because that's what I do for community pharmacists, like the same thing. Like I've been doing this for a while, not as long as you, but I got certified in functional medicine as a pharmacist with IFM, right? And at the time, I was the 9th pharmacist to be certified in functional medicine through the Institute for Functional Medicine. So I was like the niche, right? So the podiatrist who turned functional medicine provider started to transform his patient lives, and then his care and his delivery system and the practice and moving this burnout. I want to talk about this burnout in healthcare. This is a big piece for me as well, like teaching pharmacists and doctors and dentists, like there is another way out. So I already love the synergy that we have because you're in alignment, and I want to talk to you about that origin. How did that happen, right? So this isn't always the case. You went to medical school, right?
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about your journey.
So I was trained conventionally, and my postgraduate program was all foot and ankle surgery, which is, something I enjoy doing, and it was what I was taught was the way to go when the medical aspects of healing people didn't work. Of course, the medical aspects that we are taught in traditional medicine are medications, which you know a lot about, suppressing immune activity, manipulating neurotransmitters, using antibiotics. Anything we do to treat the foot and ankle, of course, has a systemic process. You can't just ask the patient to leave the foot for repairs. We're working with a whole person. So I enjoyed it. I was on staff at a few hospitals. I loved going to the hospital and doing surgery. And 5 years into my practice, I started getting strange symptoms. I didn't understand what they were. The doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with me. I had a slew of all different things that were happening to me. And I honestly tried all different pharmaceutical approaches to deal with. I had fatigue. I had anxiety. I had what I thought was depression. I couldn't sleep. I was having digestive disorders. I was getting skin rashes. I mean, my whole entire body was going down the tubes. And one medicine after another didn't help. And of course, I was fielding side effects. I didn't like it. Not ever having heard about it, but being recommended to a doctor who called himself a holistic doctor. In 1987, I went for a consult. This was the first doctor that spent more than 5 minutes with me. He actually spent an hour talking to me about my entire body, my history, my family history. He went through an entire review of systems very meticulously, and he came up with a plan, and we did some lab work, and he asked me to journal my diet, and I had a lot of homework to do. The long and short of this is within 3 months, my symptoms were gone. And I said, oh my God, are we really missing the boat? I've got to learn this. So I started to mentor with him, and he recommended a lot of different organizations where I could go for training. But this is 1987. There were no podiatrists. There was nothing geared toward foot and ankle pathology. So I just had to hop on, learn as much as I could, immerse myself in it, and see how it applied in my practice. So obviously there was a lot of experimentation in the very beginning of when I started to do this. But the most important thing I learned about being this kind of practitioner was communication was key. You needed time to sit with your patient and figure things out.
Yes.
Because what functional medicine provides is not an umbrella way to treat everybody. Like if you have inflammation, here's the NSAID or the steroid. It's patient specific. So we have to figure out 10 patients with the same exact podiatric pathology may have 10 different underlying mechanisms that are causing the immune system to become burdened and fail at healing. So I was struggling with that because I was seeing 40, 50, sometimes 60 patients a day. There was no time for me to do this. And I also realized that that high volume of patients was causing my symptoms. We call it today burnout, okay? I just called it stressed out to the max, right?
Well, to the limit, right? It's like
right.
We talk about all this all the time now, like in these podcasts and where I am in my career too, is I love your story and I want to continue, but you know, that the system is really rigged against us in this respect. See more patients, less time, burn yourself out. And I'm continuously talking about filling your own cup up first before you can help others. Because if we're in the helping, healing, healthcare world, how can we even expect, right? So the badge of honor has always been, I'm going to work 120 hours and not sleep. And all of a sudden it's like, how do I help people get better if I'm down that whole path? So right. Communication is key. I love that. So
that's part of it. The other part of it is if you want to be a healer, you have to be a role model. You have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Yeah. So I changed my diet dramatically. I got into exercise. I got into yoga. I got into meditation. I got into intentional thinking. I started to realize that a lot of what happened to me when I was young, and I grew up in a pretty traumatic environment with parents that were negligent and didn't care, and a neighborhood in Brooklyn where everything was out of control in the late 60s and early 70s. And I fell prey to a lot of it. And now I had to reprogram my thought process because I had a lot of negativity in my head. I had a lot of things that I believed, but what I came to learn was everything I believed was programmed by my experience and my thoughts. And it's our thoughts that carry over all of this childhood programming and trauma into adult life. So I worked really hard at becoming a person who could have positive thoughts. And that's where all the affirmations came in. Every time I had a negative thought, I changed it to a positive one. And it challenged me because I was changing my practice, which of course brings up fear. Can I really do this? Is this going to work? What if I fail? And all of that self-talk just held me back from doing what I really wanted to do. And I remember reading one day, and I don't remember the author because it's so many years ago. He said, success does not come in the absence of fear. It comes in spite of it. And that really hit home with me. And that's what I try to teach my patients, is that because I do work hard with them to change their epigenetics. You know, there's diet, lifestyle, and environmental factors that influence their health and change their genes. So we have to work really closely with them. And it's not just, you know, go home and don't eat bad food or go home and lose weight, which is what doctors typically say. I got to give them a real solid protocol to follow so that they have something they could succeed with. So we start in baby steps, which is how I started my own transformation. Little at a time is the way you succeed. If you throw everything at them, it's too overwhelming and they don't comply and they don't come back.
Yeah, so that's a big, big piece that I've learned in my own journey as well, especially when you're trained in functional. They go all the way down to the molecular level of all the different nodes of health and getting all of the mechanisms. And these complicated protocols can be super overwhelming and also pretty difficult and expensive. And so over the last couple of years, I love that part of what you said, because wellness made simple is really where I've gravitated back to the simple things in life and moving things in forward. Like, yeah, it's diet, lifestyle, simple, not easy, but simple, right? And then you move it in those micro doses of steps to get them in that space. So
exactly. So
we're on the same wavelength. Like, tell us a little bit about that journey, though, like your journey as the practitioner, because, well, you know, this podcast isn't only for patients, it's also for practitioners that are looking to, and you're so ingrained in this. You have a practice, but you also want to help practitioners. And that's really important because even though they're on, like, let's call it the West world side, right? The allopathic only, eat right and exercise, take these pills. What do patients do? They take the pill, they don't do anything else, and then the next pill comes or the next intervention comes. And we know that the broken part of the system. So talk us a little bit more about how your practice transformed and coming up against and through those fears, because a lot of who I talk to with the pharmacists, getting them to dive into that fear, like, how can I teach my patients to get off medicine? I'm a pharmacist. I sell medicine, right? I tell people I'm the unpharmacist now, and they go, what? I'm like, I just get them off medicine because...
Yeah, you're the pharmacist with an F.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's Mark Hyman, right? The foodie. You know, I have a friend who's the foodie pharmacist, right? And with an F. And so talk to both sides of this, right? The patient side, the journey. But I also want to dive in a little bit on the practitioner side and how you get them to move into this direction.
Okay. Well, just from a clear point of view to start, when I went into practice, and I think every doctor and every specialty deals with this, we have patients that no matter what I do, no matter what we do, they don't respond. So they come in time after time, and it gets to the point where every time you see their name in the schedule, you get a little agitated. You see them sitting in the waiting room. Oh, here's that nut job again. What I learned when I started to apply functional medicine into the practice is that these were the patients who were falling through the cracks, that no one was really addressing what was going on. No one was looking at the underlying mechanisms of pathology. And when I started to apply these principles, I started to use it only on patients who were really difficult, who I thought, well, you know, we've tried this. You've been to 10 other doctors. Let's try this. And little by little, I started to see that I was healing people that no one else could heal, that even I couldn't heal when I was doing strictly traditional medicine. And it opened my eyes to the fact that what we need to address in our practice, no matter what your specialty is number one, make your diagnosis, but don't jump into treating symptoms, because you've got to know why that patient is in your office with those symptoms and that diagnosis at this time. And that's the beauty of this paradigm. It helps us to understand what real health is all about. Obviously, and this is obviously going to sound cliched, inflammation is not a shortage of ibuprofen in the body. We medicate
this all the time. Yeah.
We medicate things because it makes the patient feel better and we get good feedback. And even if we resolve their symptoms with a traditional approach, which of course happens a majority of the time, you've left the mechanisms unaddressed. They go on to other pathologies, maybe more foot and ankle problems, maybe not, maybe other pathology. And why we have an out-of-control expenditure problem in medicine today is because you can't keep spilling water on the smoke. You've got to put out the fires. And traditional medicine is great at putting out the smoke. But because the fire still burns, what are we really accomplishing? Which is why, and this is a story that stayed with me forever. I had been in practice about 2 months, and I had a woman come in, and I think she was in her late 80s. And she sat in front of me, and she looked me in the eye, and she said, "What day is today?" And of course, I'm thinking she has some kind of dementia. I said, "Oh, today's Tuesday." She goes, "Oh, you're the foot doctor." Meaning every day is a different doctor. I don't want to live like that. I'm 70 years old. I don't want to go to a different doctor every day to manage symptoms and still not feel well. So the transition started on patients of mine that had more chronic, difficult problems to heal. Little by little, I started introducing it more and more. And I started to give lectures in my office after hours. And, I would send out notices to patients if they want to come in and learn about this, that, or the other thing. And I would speak to them. And then I started going around to neighborhoods and doing public speaking. And I saw the incredible frustration. And I'm going back so many years.
Well, this is before anything was like, we didn't even talk. We didn't even say the word functional in the medicine.
No,
right?
This is pretty much before it got its name.
Right.
When I met Dr. Bland, it was called nutrigenomics, and it was really more about nutrition and its effect on your genome, which was something we all needed to learn anyway. But it morphed into a systems biology approach where we can now identify underlying mechanisms by analyzing the different systems of the body to see where the burdens lie. So as I started introducing it more and more, and of course I was in insurance back then, and I guess I was either blind, stupid, or ignorant, I was sending in claims to insurance companies. And I started getting all these rejections. We don't pay for this. We don't pay for that. And I should just, inform your listeners that this was before ICD and CPT codes. We had to handwrite what we did on the form. So if I did
the right billing, yeah.
So if I did some procedure that was holistic or a homeopathic injection or something that didn't fit the traditional model, it was getting rejected. So I had to make a decision. Do I stop doing all of this? Or do I figure out a way to deliver it to my patients, but still be able to run my practice and make a living? So I'll say in the early 90s, I took all of my insurance patients out of one day of my schedule, and I only saw my functional medicine patients. And what was really incredible about this experience was, in the world of traditional medicine, you'd get a couple of thank yous here and there. Even if they came in with a tough problem and it was resolved, or the surgery came out amazingly well. But the functional medicine patients were effusive and thankful and couldn't get enough of it. And many of them said, "Oh my God, you're doing so much more for me than my internist. I wish you were an internist." And I would say, "Oh, if you want a functional medicine internist, I have one for you." There are so many ways to engage people in getting involved in their own health. And this is where it all kind of came from. So I learned over time that I needed to have eye contact to make them feel listened to and heard, because they all had very long stories to tell. Not putting my head in a computer to do notes and charts and things, but just to sit there and really listen and really figure out where I wanted to go in terms of diagnosing why they were in my office. and what I needed to do to educate them. And the days that I didn't see insurance patients, I had tons of time. I would see a patient one an hour or one every 90 minutes. And that day, that one day of my practice was what I looked forward to all week long.
It filled you up, right? It filled your bucket up.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it.
It filled me up tremendously. And I felt like I was doing something that really mattered, that was making a real change in their lives. And I loved being part of that process for them. For me, personally, going through my transition, it was more challenging than I ever thought it would be because, your brain has all of these thoughts that you store away and they just sit in your subconscious. And it made me get interested in neuroscience and reading an article probably 30 years ago about how the subconscious mind is almost fully programmed at 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And we take all of those fears with us. What are we? We're tiny little children in a world of adult giants. We have no control. Whatever they tell us, we accept as fact. We're supposed to behave. We're not supposed to be too loud. We're not supposed to make noise. We're not supposed to be upsetting to them. So we learn to cooperate. And insurance, if you accept insurance, fosters that even more because if you don't cooperate with the system, you don't get paid. If you don't cooperate with all the prior authorizations and requirements, you don't get paid. You can't even do anything. So what I realized is that when we're in that mode, it's the little 7-year-old within us that's running our adult life. And that's a problem because the power we have as adults is we can make choice. And the choice that we make depends on everything that we want to get out of life. So when I speak to doctors that say, oh, I would love to do what you do, but I can't do it, my answer to them is, you're right. And they look at me shocked. What do you mean? Well, when you tell yourself you can't do something, you can't do it. If you tell yourself you can do something, you can do it. It's a shift in mind, right?
It's instead of I need to, it's I get to, right?
Right. And then the next thing I hear from them is they'll say, well, I'll try. And I'll say, no, you can't try to succeed in anything. Try is a word that leaves failure as an option. Oh, well, I tried. It didn't work. Well, no, it's like Nike said, just do it. If you really want to succeed, you can't try. You have to commit. And one of the things in my course I stole from Einstein, his theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. I changed it to execution equals motivation times consistency squared. You got to be motivated, but you've got to be incredibly consistent. You can't pussyfoot around change because change doesn't.
Say that again, because that's sage stuff right there. Say E equals MC. Say it again, because people, whether it's patient or provider, right? We have the struggles of I need to, I can't, I don't know if enough information. So I had to pause because that was good stuff right there. Say it again, doctor. This is amazing.
So the formula is execution, meaning if you want to succeed, you have to be motivated and consistent. But I say consistency squared, meaning you've got to be beyond consistent. You have to be very much in the game of changing things and learning things. Now, that doesn't mean that you go into something like this and all of a sudden your life changes.
Right.
It's hard work. You have to commit to the hard work. And what you get out of the hard work is an easier life once it's all working for you. If you don't change anything, you're guaranteed to continue in the same path, feel like a failure, feel frustrated, and you're never going to be able to enjoy the kind of freedom that I enjoyed in my practice for the past 25 years since stepping completely away from the entire insurance model. That is what makes doctors able to be real healers. When you're doing what the suits are telling you from the insurance companies, which, it's their financial algorithm. It has nothing to do with healthcare or healing.
Yeah, it's a business.
That it puts us in a trap, and it makes it ties your hands up. Working outside that system you're free to be a real doctor, to do the things you know you need to do, and to help your patients through the process so that they can enjoy the benefits of being in control, being the ones to decide their lifestyle and their diet, and of course their environment, and how it affects them positively over time. And this is a beautiful thing to watch, because while I'm watching the transformation that my patients go through, it ignites more of my commitment to them, because I see once they're in it, I got to be there for them. I got to keep them in.
Yeah.
I got to make sure they're grounded in what we're trying to accomplish. So, a lot of it is relationship issues. And I should say one of the most amazing things I've experienced since leaving the insurance world is an incredibly deep doctor-patient bond between myself and the people who come for my help. Because building that relationship can't be done in a 5-minute or 7-minute visit. It's bonding. My patients are all welcome to text me anytime they want. They all have my phone number. I get emails from them. I help them. I answer questions. I can be there for them because I have the time to be there for them. And this, to me, is the way I was always hoping medicine would go before I was, ready to meet my maker. I'm still working very hard at changing dynamics for my colleagues, at least. I think anyone who wants to do what I did can do it and will succeed if they're motivated and consistent and see that there's a plan to follow that I've created for them based on all of my positive experiences and my negative ones, because I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I was flying by the seat of my pants. I had nobody to talk to. It was just me.
Yeah.
So
the parallels are so everything happens for a reason, right? The parallels are so like you're speaking my story through me. Just implant like podiatry doctor like relationship to pharmacist. Like but you're also way over here, right? You're in this space where you've been there for so long, you've done it. There's so many things to dive into. I love the E=MC² thing, especially the consistency piece. One of my mentors always says consistency carves canyons. Because if you're not consistent with and this applies to the patient side too, right? If you don't commit and you're not motivated, like most people, and this is the neuroscience of change too, like the Dispenza work and all these things that are happening is like, most of our patients decide to change when the ball of string ran out, right? The cardiovascular event happens. Okay, now lifestyle is going to change. But the truth is, and what you've touched on is, you don't have to wait for the event to actually make the change, right? It's in a perfect healing world, in the way that I feel healthcare is moving to, is people can choose to use their insurance, but they also have to be a part of that journey on their own, right? It's what is this going to provide? Because most of my patients do, they come in here, they expect all of this, but they want this to pay for it. And I always my favorite analogy for talking to pharmacists and providers and patients is, your insurance pays for you to be sick. It doesn't pay for you to be well. Just like your car insurance will pay for your car when you crash it, but it's not going to pay for the oil change and the car wash and the love and the care that you need to keep it up. And they look at me, and I was just like, one little simple analogy, and they're like, oh, okay. So how do you move your patients and these providers from this insurance model? Like you said, it's the same formula. Well, the way I did it was like, one day at a time, right? You said you got into practice, you did one, it lit you up, you knew this is where you were going, right. You probably got more momentum, and then all of a sudden, did it just slowly fade, or was there a breaking point where you're like, you went all in, you went up against the whole fear? Because it's fearful for these doctors. What am I going to do if I can't take insurance? I won't have any patients. Right. La 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 la. So right. I want you to go through this, because I hope my pharmacists are listening to this one, because it's the same thing, right? So let's talk about this hybrid model and then moving to this cash model.
Right. So one of the things that I've had to deal with in speaking to other doctors is they'll say to me, oh, my patients will never pay me.
Let's get
Now,
into it.
And again, I'll say you're absolutely right. They're coming to you because you take their insurance. They might like you. They might think you're a nice guy or a good doctor or a nice woman, but they're only there because your office takes their insurance. Those patients are not your patient avatar. If you're going to move into a paradigm like this, then it requires branding and marketing techniques to get the word out. Because believe it or not, at least in podiatric medicine, now the number one cause of chronic pain in our country is foot and ankle pain. There are thousands of these patients in every city and every town that nobody is helping. And they're out there and they don't know where to go. So one of the things I experienced in my own practice, when people come to me, they'll say, oh, I went to 6 doctors. They didn't do anything for me. And my question to them is, what did you do for yourself?
Yes.
And I get a quizzical look. And that's when I introduce the fact that medicine is teamwork. It's not up to the doctor. It doesn't depend on him giving you a prescription. That's not healthcare. It's let's find out a way to intervene on behalf of your health so that your immune system works the way it's intended to, and your body can heal and repair all this injured tissue and degenerated tissue and do the things it's designed to do when we need it. Now, one of the things we deal with in functional medicine, I'm sure you know this well, our patients don't sleep. And if you don't sleep, that cuts off your capacity to heal dramatically.
We talked about this in another class, another podcast was everyone's looking for the pill for the ill or the green pill for longevity. And I'm like, the number 1, number 2, number 3 thing you could do is sleep.
Right. So one of the things I'm very big on pushing on my patients, because they come in chronic pain and they're miserable and they're depressed and they scowl a lot. And I'll say, what your first job is to learn how to go into your bathroom every morning, look at your reflection, and smile. Learn how to see yourself with an up look instead of a down look.
Mm.
You know, that smile changes thinking. You know, people that smile a lot are attractive to other people. People who don't smile a lot repel people. And I say to my patients, it's the same way in medicine. If you scowl and you're down and you're depressed, you're going to repel healing. You've got to open yourself up to receive, and it starts with a simple smile.
I love that.
It's the most powerful thing. I used to not only smile in the mirror to myself, I used to laugh in the mirror to see myself jovial and laughing and light. Because that's how you reprogram the brain. The brain will believe everything you tell it and accept it as fact. No matter what you say, it's going to function as if that's fact, even if it isn't. So reprogram it. Teach your brain to believe something different. You can get well. You can heal. You just need the right process to get there. And the same thing is for the doctors that are changing their practice. You need the right process to get there. You can't just say, oh, from now on, I don't take insurance. You'll go bankrupt. No one's going to come to you. They'll find another doctor to take their insurance. But if you're offering them something unique, something that speaks to their heart and speaks to their suffering, you have a patient for life. And that's why I love what I do. We have patients that are incredibly committed, and they stay with me. Even when they're not suffering a foot or ankle problem, I'll get emails or texts about another part of their body, and they ask me what I think. And it's only because they trust me. And when you build this kind of a trust, these are the people that will tell everybody about you because no one else got them well. So it's a practice that is built on patient referrals for sure. It's a practice that's built on relationships with other doctors and other specialties that practice this way. And of course, now that we have social media, which I never did when I transformed my practice because it didn't exist, but social media is a powerful tool to get messages out. And just like we're doing here today with the podcast, to put it in front of people who need to hear what we're saying so we can share it. And that's the most important thing about healing in the 21st century is we have to share. We can't just walk in, walk out. You know?
Yeah, the word collective has gone full circle for me this year and last year. Is the world needs healing. It doesn't need symptom resolution, right? Like you said, we don't suffer from naproxen deficiency, right? I always say the Prozac deficiency, right? Like we don't have a Prozac deficiency. That's not why we give Prozac, right? So
Right.
Moving from symptom resolution and what I call sick care over to this healing modality. And this is why I also firmly believe there's no real competition in this either. Not because you're trying to get the patient, but you're attracting these patients. I love the analogy of sharing your story of transformation, but being there and offering, right? You're offering to help the people that want to be helped in a way and manner in which hadn't served them yet, because most of my patients that come in the door, they've tried all the medicines, they've gone to all the doctors, they've gone to all the ologists they can, and then none of them, they say your labs are fine, we don't know what's wrong with you. And there's so much in that your story here and how you treat people, of how we treat people is like, but when was the last time that you spent with a provider that knew the plan but listened, right? People want to be heard, they want to be seen, and they want to be understood. But you can't understand someone's complex chronic conditions over a lifetime in 7 minutes, let alone treat them. It's impossible, right? So we've got these nuggets, right? These things is like consistency, getting people into that mindset. You're moving beyond insurance. I don't say leaving insurance because it's there. It's got some purpose, but it's not what helps people heal, right? We keep going into this word heal, and it's not a cure. It's a heal. You're allowing the body, and you're the guide. I love when you said the patient-centered approach, right? You're the guide along the journey with them. Whereas the old paradigm is doctor tells you what's wrong with you. He prescribes these things for you to do, and then he's out of the picture. But I love how you're like, they text me, they email me, I'm pouring love into them. I'm showing up on the first day of Smile, right? I was doing this the other day. I do it all the time. It's like I walk through the airport just with a smile on my face, just loving like wherever I am. And I'm looking around going, who else in this room is smiling right now?
Right.
And it's 7 a.m. And for whatever reason, somebody's always drinking a beer in an airport at 7 a.m. Yeah. And they're miserable. And I'm like, miserable is a choice. Like and people are looking at me and they're like, who is this guy smiling in the airport? Right. That's the essence that we want, because the body keeps a score. We know that. But it also, I loved what you said was it's going to understand whatever inputs you put in as truth. And so everyone's truth is their truth. It is total. It's your perception. It's your truth. And you have the choice on what you want to do with that.
100%. I mean, happiness.
What he talks about right now is actually about foot medicine. This is the beauty of it all, right?
Right. Well, you brought up the most important word just before when you said love. I love my patients. I really love my patients because our relationships get more intimate than I ever had in the past. And in helping them, there's so much more than the physical body that we have to understand. And this is beautiful right here because it goes against the traditional way of thinking, right? Don't emotionally connect with your patients. Treat them like a number. Like you're not taught that, but that's what the effect is, right? That's what just another number. Like that's part of the reason I got into independent community pharmacy was
I couldn't care for people. Like, I'm a cancer survivor. I wanted to make sure I got through and helped other people. How do you infuse love in the bottle, in energy? And we're literally, and I love backed by science, right? And functional medicine is science, this neuroscience, quantum theory, all we're talking about is also science-based, because what you're doing when you love your patient. Now, and your emotion, like I always say, if I can have a dinner or a coffee with you, you're perfect, right? You and I can get along, because we're not going to be going to the ball game and friends, but I want to have that connection with you, because that connection drives what's inside of them, like the placebo effect, right? The part of us that heals automatically is already energized and nurtured in that respect. And I don't think practitioners, I don't think they realize that when they act in those ways, naturally, this comes naturally. I can sense it and feel it, right? It's not something that we have to do on a piece of paper, and the studies prove it, right? There was a study that I still remember to this day, where they took someone that had a cold virus or a bacterial bacterial infection, and they had one doctor that did the 7-minute visit, looked in his screen, said, "What's wrong with you?" Didn't make eye contact, which you said is the number one thing, right? And just didn't express any care. And care means love to me, right? And then they took the empathetic doctor that sat next to them and talked to them and put their hand on their shoulder and said, "What's wrong? How can I help?" That type of thing. And they treated them. And then they took the placebo. If you did nothing, you just didn't go to the doctor at all. And then they took the timeline of all 3 of those patients and how long they got better. And you would imagine, right, the empathetic doctor, just from our conversation, they got better much quicker,
right,
than the provider. But here's the key, Robert, is the patient that did nothing got better faster than the patient with the doctor visit that just gave him a script and didn't put eye contact with them.
Right. Well, I'll share a little podiatric story.
Please. People learn that story.
Which highlights the importance of connecting. So I had a patient years ago who came in with a 17-year history of chronic foot and ankle pain. Seronegative for autoimmune diseases, normal imaging studies. No one can figure out what was going on with her. And she came to me, I guess, out of desperation. So when we went through all of the things that we had to go through, I moved on to her social history. And I said, "I see here you're married. How long are you married?" And it almost floored me when she said 17 years, which was the length of her foot and ankle pain.
Ooh.
So I said, I said, "And how has that marriage been for you?" And her face turns red and her eyes well up with tears. And she said, "Well, I have to be honest, my husband's an alcoholic and he regularly beats me." So I said to her, "You have to understand the effect of that kind of trauma on your immune system. It's going to be impossible for anyone to help or heal you until you think more of yourself and get out of a situation that's destroying you." So she got off the treatment chair and she said, "I came here with high hopes. This is the stupidest thing I ever heard," and she walked out. 6 months later, I get a phone call, and I answer my phone now. I don't have staff. And I recognized her voice, and she goes, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Of course." She goes, "Well, I just want to let you know, 3 months ago, I moved away, and I'm now in Pennsylvania living with my sister." I said, "Oh, okay, that's very nice." She goes, "Well, the reason I'm calling is my foot and ankle pain is gone." So what was that about? Well, of course, the stress disables the immune system, but there's also this psychological piece of she was afraid to take that step. Better to be in pain, better to be disabled and use that as an excuse rather than to say, "I'm too afraid to leave. I don't know what's waiting for me on the other side." So all of these things, and I'm not going to say something like that happens regularly, but I've experienced it many times with people, and
well, it's the adage of not all I actually love treating idiopathic, right? Like it's because that's where the traditional model hasn't looked at it. Like a smile, an aha moment that became triggering, but then it became reality, right? Eventually it happened, and all of a sudden this downstream effects, it's not just physical, right? It's not just chemical. This is emotional regulation and all those things that actually get to the place. So the podiatrist actually treated the foot, right? You treated the foot in that, but you didn't do it in the way and manner. And the more I get connected to source and learning and all these other things is when it comes in a way that you least expect it, it really means that things are working in your favor, right? So, and you could probably write a book, which you maybe have, like of all the stories you've gotten from all of the different healings, right?
Right. Well, with the way that I practice, the marriage between functional medicine and regenerative medicine is awesome because functional medicine helps us optimize a patient for healing. Regenerative medicine capitalizes on using the patient's immune system to get things done. So we don't suppress anything. If we don't suppress anything, we're not going to have side effects. We're working with the body. We're moving forward. It's not a stop sign. Okay, we're going to stop the symptoms because you can't stop the symptoms, but now the patient can't go anywhere because that's a permanent stop sign if they stay on the meds. Where do we take them is the most important thing. To take them on that journey, they have to stop at a stop sign, learn what to do, then move on to the next stop sign. And then we work on that. And little by little, we actually arrive at a destination, which is no more foot or ankle pain and improved health. And regardless of specialty, I think that should be the goal of every physician out there, to uplevel your patient's health while you're healing their symptoms.
And the word "and" is so important, right?
Right.
It's functional and regenerative medicine. We don't do one without the other because they are in symphony with each other. And I think a lot of this duality approach is, I'm going to go to the traditional doctor, and then over here I'm going to do the holistic doctor, or I'm going to do the wellness over here. So there's this synergy you also have with your patient too, is you're connecting these dots for them in ways that they didn't understand, being the guide, right? The guide with the practice and the authority because he's done it through himself. We didn't talk a lot about the do you first principle, or what my mentor also says is become the product of your product, right? Wellness practitioners, 100% of the time, this is the only absolute that I know of to date, is if you don't do you can't do others in the respect of healing. Now, the traditional model, you can be overweight, you could do all the things. Your cardiologist can cut you open and do the things he does, and he could still eat McDonald's, right? But when you're in the well care side, it's not that it's like this burden. It's just this natural thing that you've transformed your life through these functional, integrative, holistic, however you want to say it, approaches. You understand that that's a part of what you are doing, and that when you add what you've learned into the mold and you use it for your own life, then you go to the next step. So everyone that I teach in my pharmacy, cohorts and mentorships, and now becoming more of a collective mastermind, is we kind of start with the do you first principle. And once they go through their own levels of transformation and experience, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to help others go through that process. So,
right. And I also want to make one point for the doctors listening. Functional medicine is not replacing drugs with natural supplements.
Yes.
That is not how we work. It's a very targeted approach to whatever we need to address. Yes, we use nutritional medicines, herbal medicines, homeopathic injections, and prolotherapy and PRP and stem cells and protein arrays and all the things we need to put together to help that patient. But it's not simply, you have inflammation. Here's a bottle of curcumin. Go home and swallow it. You should be fine. You'll fail 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing I want to bring up, because I find this, because I ask all my patients to journal their diet, 70% of people out there are dehydrated. And you're going to struggle to heal if you're not hydrated well. How do we know? Even before they submit their journal to me, I'll ask them, how often do you get thirsty? And they'll say, oh, hardly ever. That's the number one sign of dehydration, because your body figures out other ways to obtain the water it needs, and it doesn't ask for more. It's utilizing it by stealing it from critical processes in the body, because almost everything in the body functions in a water environment. So water is the number one medicine in my book. You have to hydrate.
And it's in my daily dozen too. It's like why this guy travels with me all over the world. I have the stickers to prove it. Like if this thing isn't with me, something's wrong, right? It's because, again, wellness made simple. You go into the office and, you smile more, you eat, you change some diet habits, micro habits, you start moving, getting to momentum, drink more water, get hydrated. And then I always say, give it about 4 to 6 weeks, see how you feel, because biochemistry is already going to take over. Like, this is the beauty. The provider gets out of the way, right? You're like, all right, go do these things and see what happens. But the motivation and the consistency that you said is super critical, because the mindset with the patient, and we got to wrap up here, but like the mindset of the patient is always like, they come to you for the solution, and then you present them with this possibility that they are the solution.
Right.
And you're in it with them, right? You're not there for them, to them. You're in it with them, because you got to do the PRP. You got to do the things that you need to do. But you're also, I always say, diet and lifestyle is their part. For me, the functional pharmacist, supplements and some labs are my like, I can show you the guide. We can give you the targeted supplements. And I love that you said that. It's not, because I always say the pill for the ill, right? So functional medicine is not the green pill for the ill. I've gone through this and I've seen it, right? You can put someone on 20 supplements, they won't get any better. They won't. It's like they're just burning money, and then they're a failure too. So I love that you touched on those points, because
And in reality, people that overconsume supplements wind up getting exaggerated oxidative stress, because the body is not providing the antioxidants to neutralize the free radicals. So they start picking electrons off of cell membranes and break into cells and break down cells and destroy the mitochondrial function, and everything starts to change. You cannot swallow 50 pills a day and think that's going to keep you healthy. It's insane.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful segue for this, is like, probably a whole nother podcast on like the opposite side of like the people that go like full, like think they're going all in on wellness, but they're really got the wrong tools, right? So that's the cautionary tale we have out there. So tell people a little bit about how they can get in touch with you, how they can follow you, if they're, whether they're a podiatrist looking to move in this direction, or patients.
Well, the simplest thing for patients to do is to go to my website, which is simply drrobertkornfeld.com. It's ROBERTKORNFELD. And they could look through my website and get a fair understanding of how I work and what I do. And for podiatrists that want to move into this realm of care, they can send me an email directly, and that would be drrobertkornfeld@gmail.com. And we can direct them to our institute website where they can read about the course, and then I can engage them in any questions that they might have.
That's beautiful. You have pathways for patients, pathways for providers. We have so much synergy with that. I could probably learn from your years of experience in both of those realms for sure. I know that we will be connecting on other levels as well. I would love to be able to help support you and to refer those types of patients and practitioners your way, because what you're doing and what you have done and what you will be doing is so important to this world, in this healing world we're approaching on a larger scale. And we all sense it, that the old system's crumbling underneath us right now. And so this new emergence for us all is really the path to true healing, which pharma and big food, if we heal our patients, they have no clients. So,
right. I often get asked, Dr. Kornfeld, you're 70 years old. Why are you still practicing? And I say, well, if you were madly in love, would you walk away? I'm in love.
And there's the smile. Look how big the smile gets, is because that's the old adage, right? You love what you do what you love. There's no such thing as retiring, because that means you're stopping what you want to do. So
exactly.
If I always ask this question, and there's no one answer. I love questions that have multiple answers. And before we end our beautiful conversation today, if there was one thing you wanted these listeners for this podcast to know or do, what would it be?
Open your mind to possibilities outside of your usual, paradigm. There's so much out there waiting for you, but it's not going to go find you. You have to find it.
That's such beautiful sage wisdom. Dr. Robert Kornfeld, go see him online, go see him an email, whatever you got. If you're interested in this, thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure, and thank you.
This is such a great episode. Until then, next time, stay well, everyone. Thanks for joining me today on Beyond the Pills. If our mission to de-prescribe 10 million unnecessary medications resonates with you, share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review. Whether you're a practitioner or someone ready to reclaim your health, visit rx2wellness.com for free resources to begin your journey. Together, let's go beyond the pills and co-create a world of vibrant health and true healing. Until next time, live better and stay well.